What's going on, my planting people? My name is Lithius and welcome to Roots Ready. In today's video, I am going to be talking about a particular plant that I have had quite the rodeo with. It's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but I think finally, hopefully, I've got it right in this one, and you would know exactly what plant I'm talking about from the description of this video. Yes, we're talking about my Queen Anthurium, my Anthurium Warocqueanum. I'm gonna rewind all the way back to the start when I first got a Queen Anthurium, and I think this must have been maybe around 2 years ago, pretty close to when I first started this channel. Of course, this was during the hype of the plant collecting boom, and I wanted a Queen Anthurium. Everybody wanted a Queen Anthurium, and I searched the internet high and low, and I finally found one on eBay. In fact, I went all the way down to South London, which is quite a journey, to pick up this plant, and I was so careful. I remember like cradling it, making sure it was nice and warm throughout the car journey. It was crazy, right? So I had this plant for a while, and fast forward, there was a bit of an accident and the plant fell, and unfortunately, despite my best efforts, the plant just refused to bounce back. So I accepted defeat. The plant was gone, fine. But I kept looking, I kept searching for another plant, and eventually my search got me to another eBay seller, this time from Poland, I believe, or one of the Eastern European countries. And when I got my hands on it, it was quite impressive. It was quite a large plant, and in fact I did a whole series on this plant and how to acclimate it, and for a long time the plant was doing amazing. I'm so excited. All right, so I'm going to do a quick unboxing for you guys. Okay, all right. I can already tell that there's a few leaves here that is not going to make it. I highly doubt that this one's going to make it. It's already yellowing. This one is certainly not going to make it, and neither is this one. So as you can tell, that first week we lost that one leaf, that really old leaf, which is a shame, but it was expected. To be fair, I thought I would be losing this leaf over here. As you can see, it's a little bit, you know, crinkled, and it hasn't got a tip. It actually arrived like this. Not much else has happened. It hasn't yellowed or anything like that. It's actually stayed this exact same color since I've got it. And you know, we've had this one over here, which is starting to get a bit of a yellow tip and some yellowing like sort of spots. I don't know if you can see that just along there. But it's all good. And I know that this plant is doing really well. It's really starting to settle in. And I know that because if I turn it over here, look at that, guys. That is the newest leaf growing in. It's still very soft. It's very new. It only sort of started about a week ago. So as you can tell, the leaves are looking a little bit worse for wear. This is the last leaf that came or arrived with the plant. This was the longest, most luxurious leaf. It was the most queen-like leaf of all of the leaves that this plant shipped with. And sadly, we're starting to lose it. In my previous video, you could have already seen the yellow spotting around the leaves and on the edge as well. Sadly, we've lost some more of that edge, and I'm quite happy with it because ba-boom, ba-bang, 2 new leaves to add to the collection. In my previous video, you would have seen this one as just a little baby, as just a princess, and now it's a queen. It's fully hardened off. This is it. It looks absolutely gorgeous, absolutely immaculate, just fantastic. This is what I was looking for. It's a little bit of cosmetic damage just here. I'm not sure if this is water or where I've touched it. And then we've got this one, which is more recent. This was only hardened off in the last month or so. So when I first got the plant, it had some decent sized leaves, but it just kept on growing. And what I really loved about the plant was that it was one of those Queen Anthuriums that had the long, slender leaves. It wasn't too tapered. It just looked really great. The lobes were nice and pronounced. Throughout that time, the plant was always great at producing these massive, big leaves. Very royal and beautiful and just elegant leaves. However, it only ever held on to maybe 2 or 3 leaves at a time. Whenever a new leaf would come out, one would start going, and I was never able to quite unpick that. So one of the things I did was I created this massive mound of moss across the stem just to sort of maintain that humidity within the plant, and that seemed to work for a while until it didn't. And why is that? It's because it was the winter of 2022. I don't know what happened. It was just a dreadful year for a lot of my plants, especially those in pon, and that Anthurium was definitely in pon. So it was unfortunately one of the plants that I lost last winter. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. Anyway. Anyway, alright, cool. So when I lost that plant, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna go out and search for another Queen Anthurium. If I happen to find one at a decent price, I'll pick it up. I'm not gonna go out searching for a plant. Anyway, fast forward a couple of months, and in May 2023 of this year, 6 months ago, I was searching through the internet, and one of my favorite plant nurseries is one called plants.com, and they're based in the Netherlands. And I was just searching for the website because I hadn't been on there for a while, and I saw that they were selling a Queen Anthurium for what was a very good price. So I said, it's been long enough, let's try again. So I bit the bullet and I got the plant, and here is my unboxing of that plant 6 months ago. A long awaited package from plants.com. Let's get it open. Beautifully packaged as always. Heat pack and the main event. Boom. Can you tell what it is? Oh my goodness. Oh wow, check out the roots on this. Here we go, beautiful Queen Anthurium. Third time's the charm. Look at all of that growth. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. That's impressive. One of the things that I didn't come across in that unboxing video was that I think on the day that I got the plant, I actually propagated it as well. I chopped off the top because it was quite a big plant, as you can see, but I chopped off the top 2 nodes, and I then chopped those 2 nodes into 2 separate plants. I had the top cutting and a mid cutting that I put to root separately and have since gone on to share it with other people. But I also noticed that this plant, from the moment I got it, was very, very well rooted, and I thought it's summer, now is the time to get this thing into a bigger pot. So I did a repotting. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this nursery soil, which tends to be quite compact and not as well drained in as I would like. After quite the detangling, here are the roots, plenty of roots to play with, and it's time to give this plant some new fresh soil. For that, I'm going to be using Soil Ninja's Anthurium and Orchid mix, an extremely barky, well draining soil. I'm going to add in my makeshift moss pole, which I've made with a bottle, and that's holding in a lot of humidity in the moss. Place my plant in the pot like so, and now we're gonna backfill. So there you have it. The Anthurium is planted nice and deep in the pot, so that as it grows up this moss pole, I can continue to cover the aerial roots with soil just to encourage more root growth back down into the substrate. And that was it. And since then, this plant has been sitting happily in my makeshift grow tent, my IKEA grow tent over here. And today I'm gonna give you a 6-month update on this plant. Are you ready for it? I don't know if you can be, because you've seen what my previous plant looked like and how much it was suffering with just those 2 leaves. You've seen it. I think this plant is the only Anthurium that's really given me a challenge. But let me show you what this one looks like now after it's been propagated and it's been repotted. Let's see. Do you think I've done it? Let's see. Oh, right. Here, boom, we go, guys. Look at this beauty. Look at this thing. Really big leaves. I'm just put my hand up for comparison. It's almost 2 sizes the length of my hand, so it's growing quite nicely actually. This is the biggest leaf, of course. This is the newest leaf coming in. It's still hardening. It's still very soft, so I'm not gonna touch it too much. So hopefully this will get to around this size or a little bit bigger. With the colder weather, it might not. But look at this thing. We now have 2 stems. From when I got this plant and I propagated it, it's actually produced 2 stems, and I've got loads of sort of plastic wrap around here, and that's mainly here just to keep the moss pole moist, basically. I have created a video on how I've created this sort of lazy moss pole with a plastic bottle cut in half and stuffed with moss, and that's proven to be really beneficial for this plant because it's really rooted in here very well, and I think that's contributed to the plant growing this well. But I'll get into the care in a second. Here she is, the Queen Anthurium. Oh, we've got a bit of you can see the stem is a little bit wet from where it's been resting against that plastic wrap for a while, but nothing, it doesn't seem to have damaged the stem. It's a little bit wet, but yeah, that seems okay. I'll have to keep an eye on that going forward. You can see here that we have 2 stems, so I ended up propagating 2 cuttings from this, and I benefited by having 2 stems, and they're both doing really well. Let me talk about some of the care I've been giving this plant, because I've learned quite a lot. And one of the things I've done, because I've realized that this plant is quite sensitive, is I've got it growing in soil. And the soil that I'm using is the Soil Ninja Anthurium and orchid mix. A great mix, very well draining, and the plant seems to absolutely love it because I haven't lost any leaves. Actually, in fact, I lost one of the older leaves. I threw it away, I think it was yesterday. It just sort of fell off, but it was tiny. It was only about a couple of inches long, but that's to be expected as these plants mature. But apart from that, it's been an absolute dream to grow. It hasn't, like my other Anthuriums, only been able to hold on to 1 or 2 leaves. It's been very good at maintaining all of this growth. And I think a couple of reasons for that is, as I said, the soil from Soil Ninja. Get some really high quality soil mix. Check out the link in my description below where you can get some discounts on your Soil Ninja purchase. A great option. Another reason why I think this has been doing really well is definitely this makeshift moss bowl. It doesn't look the best, but honestly, when it's sort of front and center like this, a lot of the leaves just sort of cover it up anyway. One of the reasons why I think this has worked really well is because this plastic bottle, which I've cut in half, it allows the moss to stay moist for way longer, and that means that the plant can be rooted into the moss bowl. And I'll bring you in for a closer look. So if you take a look at that, there are roots everywhere across the moss pole. So you can see we've got some over here. I've showed you these ones over here. There are loads coming up, even way up at the top over here. So you can see that the plant is really well rooted. And the reason why I have all of these plant ties here is because I use that to sort of hold the stem up against the moss bowl so that there's a better chance of the plant rooting into the moss bowl, because sometimes it roots outwards, but if you're able to give the plant some contact to the moss, it will then start to root into it. Something else that I've noticed with this particular plant, and which is quite odd because I've always found that the Queen Anthurium, they like to have some access to water, so they don't want to go bone dry. They probably want to go down to about 20% moisture levels and then back up. They don't want to go any lower than that. But with this one, I've actually found that it doesn't mind going a little bit below that 20% moisture level. And I think that is because of the way this plant was grown in the nursery. I don't know if it's just a stronger mother plant that they use, or maybe this is maybe not a tissue cultured plant or whatever. For whatever reason, this thing, the genes are really strong, and I think that helps to contribute to the quality of the plant and how well it retains its leaves and how quickly it grows. So another tip I would say is to look for a plant that looks strong and healthy and really growing vigorously as well. I think if you're buying a cutting, definitely ask about the mother plant, which the people who actually purchased the cutters from this one did. I showed them what the mother plant looked like, what the growth potential is, and I'm sure their plants are doing amazing. In terms of the lighting, this thing has access to about 8 hours of light every day. It's in the bottom shelf of my grow tent. It is not too far away from the grow light just because of the minimal space. this thing doesn't need access to a whole load of light. And in fact, if it was warmer out here, I would actually place it on this bit here, because I think it would have good access to humidity and just, you know, low levels of light. This thing doesn't like to be blasted with light, although I have had it in a sort of a higher light environment. But you can see that maybe that might have an effect on how the leaves grow, and there might be some yellowing, which we're kind of seeing on this. I think next spring I'm going to be looking at doing a reshuffle of my plants, just to make sure that all of my plants are getting the right amount of light, and that's really, really important. You don't want to give something like this too much light, because that can cause as much damage as not enough light. But I'm super, super proud of this plant and how far it's come along. It's grown super well, really bushy. Something I never expected of a queen Anthurium. I've always expected it to grow quite small, compact, very minimal sort of look. At the moment, we're up to 9 leaves on this bad boy, or this bad lady rather. And it is just, it's showing no signs of stopping. I will be continuing my series on the queen Anthurium and how this thing does, but that was a 6-month update on my queen Anthurium, the Anthurium Warocqueanum. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment area below, and I'll get right back to you. And as always, keep planting.